Preparing.
Maybe another 5.
Maybe another 5. Setting up. It's connecting. Here we go. Preparing. Oh, we're ready.
Okay.
All right, we're already live. Wonderful. Hello, everyone.
Welcome to our 2021 speaker series. We are the Tabletop Mentorship Program, and we are presenting a selection of awesome live interactive workshops and talks from people across the tabletop disciplines over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and we're so excited to get started with a game design workshop. This is with Kathleen Mercury. Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. This is super, super fun.
Awesome. So Kathleen gave everyone a list of components to gather together, and that's up on our Twitter as well, if you're just joining us. It's dice, it's cards, it's cubes, it's pens, it's papers, it's all the good stuff. It's pennies, yeah. The 50 pennies was the wild card.
Well, that's true. I didn't even think about that because there's like the coin shortage right now. So hopefully your couches were fruitful for you, I guess.
Yeah, we had people in New Zealand being like, we don't have pennies here.
Yeah, but you also have a beautiful goddamn natural wonderland. I've been to New Zealand. If I could live anywhere, I would totally go there. So if you're in New Zealand and you don't have pennies, guess what you have? You have a magical land of hobbits and orcas, and you're fine.
Absolutely right.
Living the good life. So we just want to give a quick thank you to the sponsors who helped put this series together. So thank you so much to Tabletop Network and to New Voices in Gaming, as well as to our patrons, Angela Belsel and Curtis Fry. We couldn't do this without any of you. Thank you to everybody who supports this program in any way that they do so. Game design was one of the things people requested more content for this session. We had a lot of game designers in the program, and they were like, where's all the game design? So we thought, why not kick it off with a bang? So
absolutely. And you're going to see some other people on this stream here, and those are members of our program who are participating live here. It's going to be more interactive than our usual stuff. So I'm so happy to turn it over to Kathleen.
Yeah, and just real quick, if you are watching this on YouTube but are in our program, you can find the link for the Zoom in the Discord. Don't worry that you're too late. Just come on in, jump in, and have fun. And if you're designing games and watching this on YouTube, tell us what you're working on in the chat. We'll keep an eye on that as well.
All right.
Well, right on. I'm going to share my screen so that y'all can be up with me in my tips and my tricks. So I always like looking at everyone's tabs, like what's going on in their life that they don't want me to know about. If you didn't see it, now you don't know. Cool. Well, so my name's Kathleen Mercury, and this is the Lightning Multi-Game Design Jam. Woohoo! This was something I did the first time a few years ago at Tabletop Network, and it went crazy good. And it was really funny because there were all these like big name designers in the room, like when Isaac Childress is doing your game design workshop, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna show you Isaac Childress some stuff about games, but the thing was it went over really well. It was the second highest workshop. Gil Hova, curse you, beat me, but I'm just kidding. Gil's a delight. But really, I think one of the reasons why it was so popular was because at a thing for game designers, we actually were having people do game design as opposed to just like talking about game design, because this is what we got to do. We actually have to make the things, not just talk about the things. So that's what I like about this. So a whole bunch of clutter about me, as far as I like pictures of myself, so you can see that, but doing lots and lots of other things as far as games and podcasts and all the other stuff go. I actually do manage to teach some time, and all that. So I teach middle school gifted kids. I've been teaching game design to them for about 13, 14, 15 years. I created a website, KathleenMercury.com, when I share my resources with teachers all over the world, which is super cool. But I also really hate the expression, those who can't do teach. And so if I'm going to have my students design a game, I'm going to make a game too. And the cool thing is, like, it's actually worked. So, and when I say that, like, it's like, there's no reason in the world why I should be a published game designer. Like like I said, I started gaming as a hobby like 15 years ago. So just to go from gamer to this, I mean, I think the cool thing about it is there's no degree you have to have, there's like, if you come up with a cool idea, you can get it out there. And I think gaming is just beginning to really start to like hit its stride as far as like, breaking beyond the hobby industry and all that. Plus, there's a lot of awareness about wanting to have lots more different types of voices and types of games and all that. So you're at the right place at the right time, and it's usually really like kind of amazing when you actually find yourself that way. I just wanted to show you a couple of different games that I had. This one is called Dirty Birdie. And everybody had their own flock of pigeons, and you're dropping poop cubes onto people in cars and everything down below. And then there was a falcon that you would use to like swing through and like smash each other's pigeons off. And that's super fun. And I sold it, but then they wanted to change it to dragons. And so we've gone through multiple iterations. And this is a rough version of the prototype now. And this is on hold because of COVID. They want to have this come out. This with Colossal Games when we have con season again, because it's a big table presence kind of game. But basically, it's like Draconis, the game, where you're a dragon, you're fed up with people, and you're just going to burn them for them trampling your rights and authority, coming into your cave and stealing your gold. So you're just going to burn them and their village to ground. But there's 4 different types of dexterity actions here, and it's also like scenario based. So it's like Gloomhaven meets Flick 'em Up, basically. This game is actually at the printers right now. It's now called Grease Lightning. This is not the art that is in the game. These are all when it was sort of a space theme, but now it is basically racing Greek ships. And so the cool thing about this one is you have these little wedges that as you race around on the board, you can place more wedges and it changes the pathway, and you can throw obstacles in front of other people and all that. So like I want to just make a fun, crazy kind of race game. And then this is my most recent one, and this isn't even like the final version of what this one looks like. I just signed this one last month, and this is by far my favorite game. I was asked originally to make a game about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and it ended up not being picked up by the publisher, but I had these cool looking tiles that I had made. And the whole idea was I wanted to make it so that to show that the path for a woman was never a straight line. So if you're Ruth, you had to go through all these, crazy ways to get into law school and stuff like that. And I wanted to make the game so really like female forward and strong characters, and I really wanted a game about Valkyrie, who were goddesses of the Norse battlefield, and they could choose the Vikings who fought, they could choose who were slain, and they made tapestries out of the bodies of the dead, which is super metal. And so I love that. And so this is, like I said, an older version of the game. And so as you're playing tiles down on the board and you're moving your little Valkyries around, trying to create various color combinations of Vikings so they can murder each other, basically, the thing that was nutty and what took it to this whole level is because of how I had designed these tiles. I realized that when you put tiles on the board, you actually could form Norse runes. And that just took it to a whole other level. So what if you form a rune by placing tiles on the board, then you can unlock different abilities and stuff. So that was 100% like serendipity, but like the fact that it came together like that, like I'm very excited about this one. This one I think is my best game, but the other ones are super fun too for what they are. And I like games that are as much fun to play as they are to win, that sort of thing. So I just wanted to show you some examples of prototypes and the thing is when it comes to, we'll talk about this in a second, but what are we doing today? You're gonna have 3 design challenges and you're gonna get 10 minutes each for them. And this is because there's good reasons for this, which I'll talk about, but this is not one game and you're gonna work on it and iterate on it the whole time. No. This is like smash and grab game design. There's good reasons for it, I swear. The emphasis is on speed and volume of ideas and not making things precious. We're just gonna we'll go from there. And then oopsies. Trying to approximate real world publisher oriented design constraints. That a lot of times if you're making games on your own, you could do anything. But a lot of times if you're like, for example, when I was asked to make a game about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, how do I take this person's life and make it a game? And so one of the big decisions that I decided on very early was everyone gets to be Ruth, because who doesn't want to be Ruth? You know what I mean? Like, oh good, you could be Ruth and everybody else is a patriarchy. Awesome. Like everybody gets to be Ruth. So you have to make some decisions when you're working within design constraints. And I love design constraints. I've been to game design workshops where they're like, okay, make a game, make anything you want. And it's super frustrating. So I like constraints, but I'm totally okay with you busting and pushing those constraints however you want. This is not a right answer, wrong answer thing. It's designed to give you a framework to kind of focus your thinking, and then you can go from there. Cool. So here's all the clutter I asked you to get. If you don't have all this clutter, it's totally fine. If you have other clutter, totally fine. It's up to you. One of the reasons why I like, again, having it focused is so it forces you to kind of think about what can I do with this one thing, as opposed to staring at this giant shelf of materials and saying like, what is the right thing for right now? The whole idea is just to keep it a little bit focused. But again, I don't know what you're doing behind the camera. You do what's best for you. This is for your benefit. So when it comes, there's just a few little things I'm going to talk about with game design before we get into, because literally there's like 2 or 3 more slides and then we're just going to get started. So when it comes to this approach, 10 minutes doing this, you know, this is like the, what do they call, the productivity triangle or whatever, that out of good, fast, and cheap, you can only ever have 2. So if it's good and fast, it won't be cheap. If it's good and cheap, it won't be fast. If it's fast and cheap, it won't be good. And you can never have all 3. You cannot, it's the unobtainable ideal. And so, like, especially when I ask my students this, I'm like, so for your first prototypes, what do you think they should be if you pick 2? And they're always like, it should be good and cheap. It should be good and fast. And then, no, that is not correct. The correct answer is actually, you want it to be fast and cheap. And they're like, but Miss Mercury, it won't be good. I'm like, exactly. It's not going to be good. Your first games are not going to be good. The important thing is you get it on the table so that you can start working with it and testing it so that you can try to make it better. So don't worry that your game's not going to be good. Game designers make bad games. I make terrible games. I had somebody once pick up a card from a prototype and literally throw it at me, said, I'm not staying up late to play this BS, and then they stomped off. You know, so that's fine because you know what? It actually was good feedback. Not everybody would like that type of game, whatever. You know what I mean? You want to get something on the table so that you can test it and see what works as fast as possible. So that's the emphasis on speed, is just coming up with something, because when we take time with it, when we let it stew in our head, it becomes precious, it becomes perfect. And we actually, you probably become more and more hesitant to actually make the prototype because it's perfect here. And if I make it and it doesn't work, then all that time I spent thinking about it wasn't worthwhile. I don't disagree with that. So get it on the table as fast as possible. You'll be thinking as you're doing, and then you're going to work quicker and faster towards getting it to be where you want it to be. It is better you make a bad game fast than a good game over 200 years. Okay. So there's lots of different kind of mindsets when it comes to design thinking that I talk a lot about with students, but this is the most important one for me, and it's biased towards action. And it's basically just what I was saying before. You can be thinking about something, or you can just start doing it. You know, if it's a think versus do, you will be thinking. So that's the whole point, is with this, you only have 10 minutes, and that's intentional. It's not to put like unreasonable stress on you, but it's just, you know, don't let ideas become precious. Just go with it, see what happens, go with it, see what happens, go with it, see what happens. So again, we're not going to be afraid of anything, right? How a new game idea works in your head versus how it actually works. But if you think about it, the one on the bottom is way more fun and way more interesting looking. The one on the top is going to go fast, right? That's it. The one on the bottom, it can go all kinds of different directions. It can get smashed up. You can paint it more. You can see where else and get the smoke to come out of the car. Like, honestly, like this up top looks fun. Down to the bottom, that actually looks like super fun. Like, you know, so don't be afraid of like, oh no, it's not perfect. Great. You don't want it to be, you know, like, don't be afraid to get in there and smash some stuff up. Okay, everybody cool so far? Whether you are or not, here we go. All right, game number 1. So this is the race game. I like using race games. It is the first game I ever have students design on their own, because most games kids are familiar with are race games. Sorry, Candyland, Chutes and Ladders, Life, you know, all of those are like, you first one across the end first usually wins, right? So the nice thing is, so the you know, basically the objective, the victory condition is the same thing for players. So how you do it is what a race game is all about. That's why I love using this one as the beginning type of game design experience. First across the line. Great. How do you do it? So for this one, I want you to use your plain white paper and your cubes. You don't have to use all the cubes. You can make it a grid. You can make it a pathway. You can use other materials if you want to. I mean, like I said, this is you. But with those cubes that you have, what are ways that you could make a race game? You could. The other thing I always suggest when it comes to race games is, if you can't think of a theme, pick an animal, because animals' lives are all about conflict, and you need conflict in a game. So if you have a game about dolphins, dolphins need to swim, they need to eat, they need to mate, they need to find magic gems, right? Whatever. So if you want to pick an animal, you can do that. But so right now, make a race game using your cubes, 10 minutes. Go. That's it. Now, you can turn your cameras on if you want to yell and complain. I'm turning on my timer right now. So 10 minutes is starting. So just play around with it. So pick an animal if you want to.
I told myself I knew what this was going to be. I didn't. Somehow, still not prepared.
Well, you know what the thing is that's okay, because in some ways, if you were sort of preparing yourself in one thing, the fact that it's going to be different is good. You know what I mean? Because you're going to let yourself kind of push and try something different than probably where you were before. I'm peeking into the chat. Can we do something we've already had an idea for? Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, game looks awesome. Ragnarok is a great name. Yeah, well, because the final move in Ragnarok is like when you run out of cubes to like done with fireballing people, but your last maneuver is you actually just get to drop your dragon on the board, kind of like your mic drop kind of thing. And so when we were playtesting, it was like Ragnarok, and we just looked at each other like, that's the name of the game. Okay, cool.
Hey, are we allowed to use pens?
You are allowed to use any crafting materials you want at any time. That's totally fine. Totally fine.
Does the 10 per color part matter?
No. You don't have to use everything. You just, yeah. I should have put in there about the animals, because that's such a, because like if you want to make a sloth racing game. All kinds of ways to go.
Fast Sloths a racing game?
Hmm?
Isn't Fast Sloths the name of a racing game?
You know what? It's funny because I think it is now, because
Yeah,
that's
it
one
is.
I've used. Yeah, I've used it as like an example, and then yeah. Well, and it's because when my students design games, I put them on BGG, and I think I've had like I did last time I did a count. I think I've had 600 something student games, because I make a geek list with their games on there and everything. It's pretty good. And it's funny because they definitely have come out with ideas that later I see from other people, and I of course just assume that somebody else did it on their own. But or my students will come up with games that they'll come up with games that they're actually pretty similar thematically, or maybe sometimes even mechanically to what's already out there. The cute thing too is when they say things like, "Well, I've never seen any space games, so I decided to make a space game." You're like, "Oh." I haven't exposed them to enough games at that point, I guess. They play a lot of games in my class. This year is obviously harder because of the world, but we're doing what we can do. Yeah, I'm actually having students make variants on games like Sorry and Shoots and Ladders and all that are on a Zoom or on a Google Slides document. And so they're using, so it's like the images that you push around to make it do things, or you link to die rollers and all that. So their first game that they're working on right now is on a Zoom-friendly game, which is what we need. And for those of you who love the idea of knowing how much time is left, 6 minutes and 37 seconds.
Loads. Nice.
Yeah. I'm particularly excited about our next one. So I'm going to put in the chat. Actually, I don't know where the chat went, so I'll close out of that. I'll put in the chat that link to the Zoom-friendly the games that I didn't make this up. Somebody else made games on Zoom. So like Sorry, Candyland, Shoots and Ladders. So yeah, that's what I'm having my students work with right now. And so I put the link to that if you're interested. Make it kind of fun. And when we're done, and by the way, 5 minutes remain. So hope you're making, ugly, fast, crappy, terrible, get something done decisions. When we're done, if people want to share, kind of talk about what they were doing, either in terms of process or product, they can. If you don't want to, You don't have to. You can talk in the chat. You can talk out loud. Whatever makes you happy.
I am doing I'm running with my, you have the suggestion of animals. So I'm doing a frog jumping lily pad game where the race is to collect all of your colors of cubes. I don't know what the cubes are yet, but
they're worms. They're
they're
flies.
worms. Oh, that's great.
No, but make them flies because then the flies move too.
Oh, well, see, so that's the thing. You jump on the lily pad. There's 3 cubes on each one. You can only catch one. The other 2 have to go to connecting lily pads. So that flies thing totally makes sense. I love it.
There you go. There you go. And some are poison flies. They got like on the bottom of it, like make like little symbols or something like that. Like, oh no, you got the diarrhea fly. You nobody wants to follow you anymore on lily pads. You're the worst frog ever. Take any game, add poop to it, and that's my jam. So because that was the thing with the Dirty Birdie. They're like, the poop part of it. They're like, we don't know, and everybody's like. And now there's like 18 million games about poop. So it was at the forefront. Fecal. Ooh, that's it. Yeah, we're going to ignore the next theme. Your next theme has to be about poop. That's a joke. That is a joke. We do not do that.
Gross.
Yeah, we're not doing that. That's a joke. Anybody else want to yell out about what they're working on?
So apparently I'm remaking Shoots and Ladders.
It's
expecting that
kind of come to.
It is a fine place to start, really and truly.
No, honestly, I just needed a sort of rudimentary track that had some sort of penalties for landing on certain spaces and bonuses for landing on others. So
yeah, I had students once take Shoots and Ladders, and there was like. Basically, they turned into a 3 versus 1 game, and the snakes were rivers that you could sail out and move around the board more easily, because you weren't trying to get to the end. It was like you're trying to basically capture the other team, and the ladders were mountains, and so they took extra movement to cross over those, and so the theme was G.I. Joe versus Cobra and 2 other bad guys. And so basically G.I. Joe was trying to take out the bad guys and vice versa. So they re-envisioned it instead of like a stacked track into a landscape. And hey, 2 minutes and 5 seconds remain.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. This is fast and cheap. This is not make it pretty and perfect and think on it. This is go baby go. And the good news is if you can't think of an idea, the good news is you're going to get another shot in a few minutes, So if this one doesn't work for you, maybe the next one will. The hardest thing I'm just having fun.
I had to throw away 4 ideas.
Yeah, no, that's great but if you didn't have this time pressure, you might still be working on the one idea that's not really working for you. Fast means you cycle. So, and Pearl, I'm having fun trying to play my made-up game now. That's awesome. Yay.
I think I finished my terrible design. I feel good about this unplayable game.
What do you have?
Oh no, my game, it's not a scarf. It's a game where you're trying to get off the trash belt before you're dumped in the incinerator, like that classic movie Caper. You've been dropped on the belt and you have to get out. There's 2 of you. All the cubes are going to move forward every turn, and you're trying to manipulate cubes so you can get out on one of the green zones.
That's awesome. Crash Course actually started as a game about luggage on conveyor belts.
Oh, nice.
It was one that my now current design partner had started. I was like, this is not fun. Like, because I went into space where I'm like, this is not fun. It needs to be a circle. You need to do this, you need to do this, and do this. And then they were cool. 36 seconds remaining on the clock. And for those of you who really hate time pressure, understand it's made up. And it's all pixie dust. It's all for fun. And it's really okay.
Poor Alex.
I'm working in like 40% of my office as I'm trying to put it together.
Yeah.
I'm just surrounded by the embarrassing number of like PNT print and play bits I've collected over the years.
Yeah.
And now I have no idea which
All right.
one is the right one to go with.
Oh, do you hear the lightsaber? Wait. Okay, it's very quiet. All right, cool. So 10 minutes is up. You did it. You survived the first one. Yay! Does anybody want to say one thing that they like about their game? It's okay if you hate 99, but what's one thing you like? Alex, hit it.
Yeah. You know what? I did a goat takeover where you just like go through and try to take over the farm. So you have to go through like, the rest, the barbed wire. And you know what? I was like, I didn't know what was gonna happen in the TTRPG world, but like this is my rudimentary game that you can definitely play.
Right. You know what? And the game's called the Goat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goat's goat. You can
The
be
goat, man. Are you the goat? I want to be the goat. Right on. Who else wants to share what they got?
I can.
Yeah, cool.
I realized maybe. Is this the camera? Yes.
Mhm.
Well, what I got is here. We have that's should be cubes, but I got meeples because that's for player order.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I've tried it with the most players. I think it will work, which is 5. And it's 2 to 5 players, 15 minutes from 6 years plus. And you have 20 cubes in a bag, and you draft them. From here, you take player count plus 1, the number of spaces you take, and you draft 3 cubes for each color. And imagine I just tested it because and that's why that's not set up. Imagine that's all placed, and every player also has their own color. I'm taking extra cubes just not to take extra time. They have their own color at the start here from the track. And what they're trying to do is be the furthest forward with their cube, but they have to draft and move all the colors from the places they draft.
Nice.
So, for example, if I'm yellow, I will be trying to get this one instead of this one because I move here, I move every cube once, but here I can move mine twice and white once.
Nice.
And so every time it's this dilemma, and the 2 extra cubes come here, and they are just not for the value, but instead of drafting, you can say, I will take one of this and put for example, yellow was frustrated, and instead of taking anything, they take one from here, and they go from last place where they started to first place in the next round.
Yeah.
So there's 2 chances to draft first and second place, and the other will move just where they were. And then you reset this, and these cubes remained as far as they came, and you reset this, and the first to go first to reach the finish line wins. And for tiebreakers, maybe you should notice how many times people took the first player thing, then the one that took the least will be the winner because they took the least amount of benefits while playing. So I cheated, I noticed, but it was a good way to randomize the cubes.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I love, like, that's what I like about race games as like a design constraint, because like it gives you like a very specific place like where you can start, but like how you can keep pushing it. Do we want to hear from one more person? Yeah, Sarah?
I just had one little thing that I liked. My game is nowhere near that. And I just want to say one thing. Instead of rolling dice, because the constraints were cubes and paper, I created a 1 to 6 grid that you roll your cubes onto, and then that's your number instead of rolling.
That's cool. That's cool. I love that. And it's like little things might suddenly be like, because a lot of times, you play test a game and players might hate everything except for one thing that you didn't think that they would like. Oh, well then go with that. That's the thing, right? Awesome. Well, good job, you guys. You did it. All right, cool. Let's do another one. Yeah.
And in the YouTube chat, feel free to comment with what you've made as well. We see people are cheering on everybody's designs.
Oh, that's so nice. And I can't see it, so let me know if there's anything especially awesome. All right, so here we go. Ready for number 2?
Yes.
Happy Valentine's Day, right? Right? So I wanted to give you one that was more theme-based. And so Here's a couple little memes that I like a lot about Valentine's Day. So are you the Deathly Hallows? Because I'll pursue you even if it's hubristic and self-destructive. Hey. Or from Big Bang Theory, given that St. Valentine was a 3rd century Roman priest who was stoned and beheaded, wouldn't a more appropriate celebration of the evening be taking one steady gal to witness a brutal murder? So usually not what people think about necessarily for Valentine's Day. But Valentine's Day is coming tomorrow, so what better time than to think about a game based on Valentine's Day? So your challenge is to make a 2-player game based on Valentine's Day using pennies and index cards. Now, what I love about 2-player games, they're like when you're playing a 4-player game, you're playing the board, you're playing the other people. 2-player games, and I've been playing a ton of them during COVID. So I've been playing Lost Cities a ton, Jaipur a lot. Like 2-player games are so interesting to me because it's so transactional, and like any decision I make could easily benefit somebody else or not. And I think that's what's so interesting about this. Now, I will allow, when I was telling my students about this, one of my students said, Miss Mercury, some people may need to make a solo game. I was like, that's cold, but it's true. So if you want to make a solo game, you can. But so this is a 2-player game based on Valentine's Day. So it could be anything from, giving chocolates to each other. It could be anything like a rom-com, the game. Anything that you can think about in terms of Valentine's Day is fair game for this. So if it's like Pepe Le Pew trying to catch the other little skunk in Looney Tunes or whatever it is, whatever you're drawing from, 10 minutes to make a game based on Valentine's Day. Could be trying to like give out Valentines to as many kids in your 3rd grade class. All right, so 2-player game, Valentine's Day, 10 minutes, timer's on. I'm especially entertained by this one. The pennies have 2 sides. So you could maybe even look at, if you have pennies, if you don't have pennies, if you're using wooden discs, again, creatively improvise, it's totally fine. But, so anything that could be used, how could you use it as far as, face up versus face down? You can take those cards and turn them into, numbers. You can have it could even be a co-op game if you really wanted to. It was like, how could we work together to do something? I mean, there's so many different directions you could go with this, but in a 2-player game, or solo if you want, game with a Valentine's Day theme. What is the game that you and your special someone may drag out on Valentine's Day or other games as a celebration of the fact that you are managing to not totally reject each other after however much time? I'm just a romantic at heart. I can't help it. I like hearing all like the clicking and clacking of the materials.
My wife and I are both veterans of retail and food service jobs.
Oh, so you don't really have a Valentine's Day.
Well, we're just immediately went to I'm making a game about working a restaurant on Valentine's.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So.
Okay, I saw how you said the time traveler racing game. I love that idea, especially when it comes to time travel, especially if you can really play with like, the chronology, the sequence of things. I think that's such a great idea. Yeah. So Pearl, I told you use dice in mind. Each player got to move yourself die, move the other player die, and one savable die that can do either. You could carry that forward into this game too if you wanted to, I mean, choose your own adventure. Happy Valentine's Day. Is anybody not going for like romance? Is anybody going for like beheading saints? I'm just curious. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm already calling it I Hate You More.
That's so good. That's so good. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Then when I did this at tabletop, and this is not what I'm doing, but there was one where I had everybody yell out emotions. and I picked Rage, and I was like, cool, using XYZ components, make a game based on Rage. And it was funny because like the energy in the room immediately like went up. People were like, ooh, you know, like one person had a game where literally pieces would just fall down and you could literally never stop it. It was like this, almost like this like existentialist kind of exercise more than a game, you know. And I was like, I love that. There are a lot of dexterity games when Rage was in motion there. Yeah, like ring toss, like throw the engagement ring on the, you know, on the poor girl. I don't know. Oh my gosh, like some sort of like, I don't know if you want to get that gross. But anyway, yes.
What's our time?
6 minutes and 15 seconds. Thank you for asking.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, especially like 3 minutes and how much you've got done and how much more. I mean, I think that's the cool thing about this. You're like 6 minutes. Heck yeah, I can get a ton done in 6 minutes. That's why I love this as a game, as a design structure. Love, 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 love makes the world go round. Also money and power. Hopefully you have at least one of those 3 things.
One of those is the winning strategy.
Or bourbon. Just if we're going to be real about things. For those of you who like precision and symmetry, we just hit the 5-minute mark exactly. I can't wait to hear what you guys come up with. I hate you more.
This like
I mean,
this
like how
stumbling process where
I'm sorry?
like trying to this part where it's like, oh well, what do I need? How do I make this actually function? Like what are the rest of the parts of this mechanism is like precisely what I'm working on with my mentor.
Yay, that's great.
Yeah, like how do you mechanize that thing in your head that you know will work?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when I was talking with my students, I said, what do you think the most important question is that I ask myself as a designer? And kids are like, you know, like, who's the game for? I'm like, that's actually for a middle school kid to think like, you know, any type of empathy is like amazing, you know, but at the end of the day, like, how can I make this more fun? Like, if this is good, like, what will be more fun? Ooh, cool. What will be more fun? And especially when I phrase it like that, because then they're like, yeah. So the trick that I have to deal with them is, I mean, not everybody necessarily likes making games, and they have to in my class. You guys are here voluntarily. I force them. But also, you know, when they're not successful, a lot of my students aren't used to that. And so they have to like mentally wrap their head around the fact that they are fallible human beings that come up with bad ideas, but maybe they can still make it work. So what I do a lot is just, you know, it's like the human element of it, you know, working with them to embrace the process. And so the fact that you guys are like jumping into the process, you know, like like, I don't know. I mean, I've had a lot of success, but Ragnarok, I think I started about 10 years ago. Grease Lightning, that one originated about 8 years ago. Valkyrie, relatively quickly. That one, 2 summers for that one in development. One summer I spent on the Ruth Bader Ginsburg idea. And the next summer, because I'm a teacher, I don't necessarily get a lot of game design stuff done during the school year. And the next summer, like it came together so well, so quickly as Valkyrie. And then COVID hit, so it was slower in getting signed. But, you know, and the more you do it, the better you get. And I just think about like, and especially Grease Lightning, that one game, I think of that as like my high water mark. Because there were so many times I thought the game was done and finished, and then playtesting or something would come up and have to like back to the drawing board. And so that's a game where I definitely feel like I know how I've gotten better because of how I've been able to identify and solve various problems in those games. And, you know, the best thing you can do is make a lot of bad art, because from there good art will emerge, both over the course of you just creating a lot and of you having some not so great ideas, but then also all of a sudden like a really good idea. So trust the process, and you have 1 minute and 45 seconds remaining. Yeah, see, there you go. Alex is
How
like
dare
raising
you?
raise the roof. Love, 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 la, la, love, la, la, love makes the world go round. And I just want to hope that for all of you that Valentine's Day is either a day that passes by with little recognition or something you enjoy.
Ooh, got like a whole deck over there.
Yeah. Yeah. I made too many cards.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that was one of the reasons why, especially for index cards, the idea that you could make something. And I love dual purpose cards. I love cards that you can use one thing or the other thing, especially like when you like throw a lot of stuff into a game and when you feel like you're taking stuff out, because that means you've kind of identified what that core thing in the game is, and a lot of the other frippery, like that, you don't need that, you don't need that, you don't need that. 34 seconds. I play tested a friend's game, and it's like, what are you wanting to do? And she told me, I'm like, okay, cool. Get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this. There are all these like little systems that had nothing to do with like what the overall game was about. And it's like, focus on that. Like, make this core thing cool. And then you can do whatever else you want with the rest of the stuff, but there's no reason for all this other stuff. Hey, 9 seconds. Whew. 9 seconds. All right. And here goes the lightsaber. All right, cool. So, anybody, let's see. Totally Adobe Pearls, that was from last time. Anybody want to say like anything you're particularly entertained by in your game, slightly tickled that you had come up with?
Yeah, I'll start then. So I was really inspired by the actual penny. On one side, it's Lincoln's head. On the other side, it's a shield. So mine is a save or let die kind of beheading game. So you have the coins lined up in a row, and you have objectives of which people you want to save, and you represent that by flipping it either on the beheaded side, obviously Lincoln's head, or the save side, the shield.
Hilarious, hilarious. And I just want to make sure people understand I am in no way, shape, or form advocating for the beheading of anybody.
Yes, of course.
All right, Brian, you want to go? I saw your little bubble.
Sure.
Up. All right.
Yeah. So what I focused on was the fact that all 50 tokens were the same, and like what I could do in a 2-bit game with only one resource. So I decided to make it 2 people working a buffet and trying to pitch the meals they don't want to get people hungry for those things, so that at the end of the night they can eat the things they actually want to eat.
All right. Okay.
So you, yeah. So I'm just like you seat a table. So you like take a table off the deck, and then once you've seated it, you flip it over, and then you can put it on the card to try to show like where people weight the meals on their card, and then at the beginning of the round, like the back of the house tastes the menu. So you look at the meals ahead of time, you decide what things you're hungry for with the same tokens in your space, and then you just hope that when they get up and go, dump the tokens to eat.
Nice, nice. Anyone else want to throw out their idea what you're working on? You can do it in the chat if you're more comfortable there. If you want to say it out loud, you can.
So I was already working on a courtship game before this, but it had a minimum of 3 players. So I was working on how I would make a bot for a 2-player game. And I think I'm kind of happy with how it's coming, because like the game works by you've got like 3 different suits. So you have a hand of these 3 different suits, and you're looking for a partner that has one of those suits, or trying to get more of those cards, more of the same suit in your own hand. So if you're working together with somebody, it's sort of like a prisoner's dilemma sort of situation where if you cooperate, then you could both win. But it feels safer to just ensure that your own victory. And I was going to add a bot that would like pretty much offer your symbol, but the trade-off is that it's going to be harder to form a connection with the other player.
Cool. I love the prisoner's dilemma on Valentine's Day too. Cool. Anyone else?
We had one from the YouTube chat. Can you read it out, Mike?
Yeah. So Alex in the YouTube chat said you're a professional matchmaker, and between you and your client, the other player, you have to find the best match. And you flip coins, yes or no, to give feedback on who you chose.
I love that. Well, and there was for a while I was trying to take Old Maid and make it so instead of just sort of like, because the whole idea of Old Maid, where like, God forbid you end up was the unmarried woman, like gross, right? So I wanted to like make it where players were matchmakers, like trying to make the best matches like for their own financial benefit. Like there was definitely that aspect of wanting to put people in the position where you're using humans as collateral and just kind of looking at how women have been used as like economic collateral over the years. It got kind of heavy handed. And then I threw all this, I need to like strip it down if I wanted to do that. But I loved that idea. Yeah, as far as like looking at that. And then Pearl, I think I ended up with basically Broken Battleship, but I was amused by my starting idea where you're a couple getting divorced, trying to add the S's and the pennies and find the other person's hidden ones. Yeah. Especially when like billionaires get divorced, and then it's like, it's like countries at war. It's amazing. Not that I want anyone to get divorced, because it's very sad. All right, cool. Well, good job, everybody. So we got one more to go. And that was one thing too that we like, that definitely originally I had like an hour and a half at Tabletop Network, and then the time for all the sessions got chopped. 3 seems like a lot because this can be kind of exhausting. You know what I mean? Like they're like new ideas and whoosh and new ideas and whoosh. You're doing great. You're doing great. This is our last one. All right, here we go. Push it. So, oh my gosh, like who's not singing this in their head right now? If you're not singing this in your head right now, push it. All right, cool. So what are we gonna do? Using the dice and any of your remaining components, create a press your luck game based on the song you would use for an entrance song. Are you going up to bat? Are in like the baseball game and like wrestling, professional wrestling? I put on there like A New Day because I just think they're hilarious. They're these professional wrestlers and they throw waffles and stuff. Hilarious. Or like what's your theme song? Like when you're gonna like get yourself pumped up to run, you know what I mean? So a press your luck game where you're pushing it and trying to tap into that emotion or whatever that comes out of you. Like my song is the Immigrant Song, but it's a version that they did for the girl with the dragon tattoo. So it's with like Karen O and Trenton Reznor. And if you haven't seen it, it's like such a good version of the song. Like all right, press your luck game based on your entrance song. So what is your song? So like for my song, the Immigrant Song, come from the land of ice and snow. Like, can I use something from there? And this one, now you might be saying to yourself, this is pretty far out there. This is true. But the thing is sometimes, when you're working as a game designer, you are asked to come up with something where you're like, I have to work with this IP, but how do I do it? When you're told Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the game, how do I make up a game about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right? So picking something that's personal to you, something that you love, your song, and how can you use dice and make a press your luck song where people want to push it, but if they push it too much, they might go bust. And if you want to use the song Push It by Salt and Pepper, you can do that too. If you want to take one of the games you've been working on and you want to play around with turning that into a press your luck game, guess what? This is your fantasy. I'm just here. So timer starts now. Oh gosh, and I set the timer and it's on the lap. So now not only is it seconds, but it's like hundreds of seconds. Like that's anxiety inducing for me and I'm not even doing it. All right. Anybody want to say what their song is?
I've got Alphonsus. That's impossible to. I need to spell it.
Okay.
I forgot that it's impossible to. pronounce Norwegian word.
Everybody wants to rule the world. Oh, wait, that's the one song from the end of Real Genius, right? Bad girls go to heaven. Yes! Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. A game where who's trying to be the baddest to get to heaven? And if you're second bad, then maybe you don't get to go to heaven, but the baddest of the bad get to go, and everyone is just trying to be Alfonso Muscat. I'm not familiar. Yeah, oh my god, bad girls go to heaven. Oh my gosh, I'll be right now. Could totally make a game based on bad girls go to heaven. Independent, yes. 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 I don't know your song, Zawadi. I do not know it, but I'll look it up. Cold as ice. I feel like yes. Yes.
It really depends on how aggressive I am going into the event.
Yeah. This is my fight song. Yes. Yes. The party don't stop till I walk in. Don't stop. My favorite is like on Glee where the principal would call her K $ ha. That made me laugh. I was like, I love who thought of that. They deserve every dollar they made working on that show. That's hilarious. All right, so bad girls go to heaven. That's where you're like trying to be the baddest and the baddest and the baddest of person. Like the game is there. Oh my gosh, that's so good. That's so good. Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. And plus too, it's like especially when it's your song. You know what I mean? Because that was the thing with my favorite out of the Marvel films is Thor Ragnarok. I mean, I like Endgame too, but I only watch it starting with the snap because it's just so long. But Thor Ragnarok is so funny, and they made a movie that's about the destruction of Asgard. Spoiler, and it's funny. But the best thing they did, and if you haven't seen it at this point, like I'm sorry, I don't care about spoiling it for you, is they used the Immigrant Song for Thor in a fight scene not once but twice. And that's so good because, showing how he's changed from the first time to the second time. And it is such an amazing song. It's like one of the classic, just rock songs of all time. Into the Wormhole by Cadaver. You've got two good things to work with there. You've got, Einstein, Rosenbridges, and you've got Dead Bodies. So.
Right. And I love space skeletons. Give me more black magic in space.
Okay, I'm just telling you right now that I would be very interested in a black magic in space kind of game. That's hilarious. And how can you have, and that's a nice thing too, because I didn't specify dice sizes, but if you want to play around with different, 4-sided, 8-sided, because that's one thing for my students, trying to get them to play around with dice differently. Like how can you, like if somebody, rolls higher, how do you reward that? Do you have like a concept of exploding? If they hit the same number, do they get some sort of benefit there? You don't have to it doesn't have to be just like can't stop where you just roll until you keep going or bust, but can't stop if you're not familiar with it is one of the best, most pure press your luck games of all time. If you're not familiar with that one, it's a classic. It's been out for like whoever knows how long. Like one time we had some women come to one of our board game meetups, and they were like casino gals, they like to play Scrabble, and we had all this weird stuff. So I had them play Can't Stop, and oh my God, this just right up their alley. They were like ordering it for their grandkids while we were on the phone playing it. So Can't Stop, because we all understand greed. Bad girls go to heaven. Cold as ice. So you're trying to get as close to absolute zero without having your molecules completely lock up and never move again.
I decided to go for a competitive figure skating game where you're trying to outscore your spurned rival, and the push your luck element is how difficult your moves are.
That's awesome. Oh, I'm gonna do an octo axle.
Exactly.
But you know what? If you land an octo axle, you are legend. Ultimate unit.
Can you pull off a septuplet sow cow?
My sow cow's not as good as my Lutz. I like the terms. I have some students who are figure skaters, so I'll like jump and do this like barbarian like turn in the hallway. I'm like triple axle, and they're just like, you spit on our sport. Party don't stop till I walk in. Hey, 5 minutes and 15 seconds have elapsed.
Ooh, I remember before I start shooting handfuls of dice everywhere.
Well, I did say 50. I thought about making it like 200, but just in case you didn't have that many, I wasn't going to do that to you. So I'm scrolling through because I'm trying to find the song. I was going to play it. Not that you haven't heard it. Maybe you have. Oh, here it is. It's right here. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. Oh, wait. Oh, we got to be careful with this on YouTube because otherwise you're going to have to pay rights.
Yeah.
So you're going to get like 5 seconds
30
of
seconds
this.
of fair use.
I got something, but I'm not satisfied.
I'm sure you have like a minute 30 left, right?
Yeah. No, I'm done. That's it. We're not, let's see. How much time do we have left? We have, stopwatch. We have about 6 minutes, 23 seconds have elapsed.
Wow.
Mm.
It's amazing how fast that feels when you don't have an idea.
Well, I mean, and that's one thing is like not everything is going to work. Not everything is like not every challenge is going to. And usually, like if like from what people said in the past was like if you come out with one idea that you kind of want to keep working on, coming up with one idea in an hour's time is actually really good as a designer. Something that you're excited about, something you see potential, all that. I mean, this is definitely a throw a lot of stuff at the wall, hoping that something sticks kind of approach. You know, and I think especially because we're used to kind of like longer, kind of more contemplative sort of approaches to things, this type of, you know, kind of like jump kick into thinking can really help to like push ideas forward. Anytime you force yourself into thinking, approaching a problem differently, different types of materials, different types of constraints, you're going to uncover little areas of your brain that you haven't really been tapping into when it comes to from design. So just or you might discover that you absolutely hate this approach and you never want to do anything like that again. Cool. You now know it, right? This was playtesting for you as a designer, you know. I did this at NunPub. I think we did this. And there's been a lot of online conventions. And this one woman said, I now know I don't want to design games. I didn't enjoy any of this. And she's like, I'm really glad I did it because I thought I wanted to design games. I really don't. I was like, well, maybe you just don't like it this way. But you know what? On the other hand, you know what? Nobody said you had to design games. You can play as many games as you want. And hey, 8 minutes and 5 seconds have elapsed.
I really enjoy playing with ideas and theme, and I really hate having to nail down mechanics. It's really nice to be able to co-design with someone who can kind of carry that weight.
Right. Well, and the other thing too, though, is by having a very specific mechanic, it does sort of make you, you know, again, it's like open and closed, like focused versus could be anything, you know? And so it's like, okay, fine, I love this song. How can I match this and this? And it's like, if I ever have no idea what I was going to do with students on a day, literally all I have to do is say, how is XYZ like a spider? And then that will take care of the next hour and a half of just like, how is this like a spider? Or how is this like a this, you know? So, you know, yeah. So design constraints can be frustrating, but they can be good.
I gotta say, I'm really loving this. I'm using Post-it notes to make like my map. So making it piece by piece and arranging it exactly, you know, like it's interesting. I've never done that before, but I'm digging this way to like build a thing rather than starting with a giant piece of paper and being like, oh, I have to figure it all out at once. Piecemeal is
fast and cheap. Yep.
Yeah, right.
What can I do? What can I do? What can I do?
Well, there was
oh my goodness.
I
don't think Brian made that up in 5 minutes.
There was this great little app that I think was kind of like Risk, but I've never played Risk, so I'm not sure. But you were like fairies and you like gathered up your little fairy army and then you went and took over other little fairy armies and they were like little wisps. And so I was like, how could I do that with like a super limited number of cubes? So that's what I'm kind of like.
That's
got a
awesome.
map and like you get on the map and then you take over the world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because that's one thing too, and there's 9 seconds remaining. It's like what I tell my students, like, I mean, the fact that, you know, if you're going your own total different way with this and because I did the lap counter, boom, time's up. We don't have lightsabers because I hit the lap counter, not the timer. But the thing that I've told my students is like, and for people who are like pushing rules or disregarding what I'm saying, that's great. Because, you know, like what I tell them, if you do what everybody tells you what to do, you know, you're going to be very good, but you will not be great. And great comes from when you break the rules, create your own rules, go your own pathway. So anything that you're doing right now to like find your voice as a designer and make something cool, anything you do is a success. There are plenty of people who want to design games and are not actively doing it at this moment. You all actively have been trying to make things, and that is huge. That's, I mean, in of itself, just by trying, you are successful. If you came up with 3 bad ideas you don't like, well then there's more good ones out there to be discovered. If you find one thing that you're happy with, that you want to keep playing with, even if it's in a totally different direction, that's a success. So who would like to talk about something that they did that they're happy with?
I made like a 2-player stacking dice game with the betting from poker.
Uh-huh.
So essentially my idea is like you have 7 dice, which I came up with like in the last 30 seconds because the only way I could tie this to the music is that it has a 7/4 time signature.
Perfect. Nailed it. Nailed
it. So essentially, you have your dice. You roll a handful of them. I think I said, let's say 4, and you can choose any one of the ones you've rolled, and you can roll, and you'll stack them in a communal stack with your opponent in the middle of the table. And you can continue rolling the remainder of the dice you've got that turn, but every time you keep stacking, the numbers you stack on top has to be lower than the one before it. And if you fail, you will have to just like chuck some pennies, which I haven't used. Also done got, but you can't see that, so that's fine.
Totally right. Creatively improvise is the key of the day.
You have to throw some pennies into the pot, and at the start of every of your turns, you have the option to raise the stakes by essentially like poker, raise the stakes of the pot, and your opponent may choose to either call your raise or just fold and let you win the round. And if the I think I said like I think I wanted like if anyone gets rid of their 7 dice in this, like what would essentially be like something close to 12 dice stacked together in a pile, which would I guess look something like this. This is less sturdy than I thought it would be, but also more. I'm not sure what this is. Anyway, anyone who gets rid of their dice first will win the pot anyway, or something.
Right. Well, and that's one thing too that's really nice about dice is they're tactile, right? They're big, thick cubes that you can play with all kinds of different ways in terms of like the dice faces north, east, south, west, and stacking all kinds of things. So like even using them as like in a 3-dimensional space, not just as like a number randomizer. There's all kinds of possibilities. So that's cool. Anyone else?
Ooh, I want to go.
Okay.
I wasn't quite sure what Press Your Luck games were really, so I went on like Bad Girls Go to Heaven. So it's like almost like a social like hidden identity game where you're trying to get rich and die trying and be a bad girl and go to heaven. So you're trying to convince everyone else in this crowd that you're a good girl actually, so that you can like advance. But then in the end, you're just a bad girl who got rich and died trying and went to heaven anyways.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. I love it. I love it. And that's, you know what? And that's the best part, especially like, if one, I play some Press Your Luck games, like look for Can't Stop It's on Board Game Arena and other places too. But, just taking any idea and going with it, that's awesome. Like, well done. That's super cool. Anyone else?
Can I just ask a question about that? Would you also consider Roll For It to be a Press Your Luck game?
Let's see. If you don't, it's been a while since I played it. If you don't,
you place your dice, and if somebody else gets that card, you lose your dice that were on that card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I could see that definitely would have some aspects of that, certainly for sure. If you've not played Celestia or its previous version Cloud 9, that's really, really great in terms of a Press Your Luck game, because with that one, the longer you stay in this hot air balloon, the more points you can get. But if somebody's the pilot and you take turns being the pilot, if they don't have the right cards that match the dice, then the balloon crashes. So you can jump out even on the very first turn and get a point without doing anything. And you could just jump out every single turn, get 1 point, 1 point, 1 point, but you need 50 to win. And so the highest is 25. So even like when you jump out, how you jump out compared to other people. Cloud9 is out of print. Celestia is in print. I kind of like Cloud9 better because it's a little bit more simple, streamlined. Celestia has other stuff added, but I like Celestia a ton too. That's another really great one. And the art's beautiful in Celestia. Beautiful. It's a kind of steampunky, like floating cities kind of thing. It's really cool. Cool. Well, here's one thing I would like is what is one takeaway from this? You can put this in the chat. You can say it out loud. What is one takeaway from this approach that you think might benefit you in the future? And if you're like, nothing, thank you, Kathleen, then that's okay too. But what is one thing from this approach and how we've looked at game design in this fast and cheap kind of way? What is one thing that you wanted that might actually help you in the future as a designer? Brian, were you starting to say something?
I mean, for me, it was just the time limit, how much that helped me. Like others have said today, like actually choosing like what is the actual final mechanism, like the nitty-gritty of it. Like that seems to be what brings up all the anxiety around like, is this idea good or not? And like, as soon as the time limit, that whole part of the discussion just went away.
Nice. Yeah, so Raven said iterating sooner, yes. Sarah made me really stretch my creative muscles. Trying a bunch of different things meant that each game got a little bit better than the last. Yeah, right. Spending more time on paper than in your head, yes, because at the end of the day, like we have to produce something, we have to make something, and just making it real, like it takes the sting away in some ways when you actually are making the thing, like because there are some games that my game Dirty Birdie was about pigeons and all that, and one of my favorite things in the game was the mating action. So if my two pigeons were next to each other, I could say, hey, they're mating, and I could have one appear in a nest. But if I was running low on pigeons, if mine were far apart, I could mate with somebody's right next to me. And the way it would work is I would take one from my supply, give it to the other player. They would shake up their hands. They would reach in and they would pull out one of the birds. So you had a 50-50 shot of getting your own bird, right? And like in mating, genetics. But the thing that I loved about it was in a mating action, I actually made two players physically touch each other, right? Like I thought it was funny. And I loved it. And it was one of those things where when we made the switch over and they're like, this really doesn't fit the game. And I was like, I love this part so much. But it was actually really good because like killing a sacred cow, right? Like it made me really think about what was really important to my game. And if I'm willing to let go of that particular thing that I love so much, at that point, I'm willing to let go of anything. And it was really good, ultimately, to basically, what does a game really need versus what do I want it to be, and trying to reconcile that. I finished early every time. A good reminder, I don't want to finish making something playable by myself, co-designed all the way, Grace. Yeah, and especially if that works for you and you have a design partner that works with you, like that's great. I mean, I would love to find somebody that I could collaborate with that much more frequently. Like I said, my ex and I did Grease Lightning, but we're so different that like, I'm glad we got it to the finish line. I don't know that we would do it again. And the only reason why is because like, we're just very different. That's okay. That's cool. Well, I hope this is helpful. I hope you guys had fun. Remember,
Absolutely.
Fast and cheap, get something on the table. As you're doing it, you'll be thinking about it. Don't let ideas become precious. When it becomes precious, then you hold on to things sometimes for the wrong reason. Sometimes you need to. Sometimes you need to stick your ground saying, this is the thing I want, and I am going to make it work, and that's totally fine. If a mechanic feels fun, and worry about balance, how fun it would be in practice is a future me problem. The important bit was that it spurred more ideas. Absolutely. That's the hokey pokey. And in a lot of ways too, like the more fun a game is, in some ways, the less balance it has to be. You know what I mean? Like, because especially there's some games that are like, could be wildly unbalanced, but if it's short, fun, and fast, like players are willing to deal with it because, that's what happens. I feel like this would be a fun, creative exercise to do with my child. That's great. That's awesome. Yeah, because kids need fun, creative things to do too, So, well, cool. Well, listen, I mean, I've had a ton of fun doing this. I hope this was fun for you. If you want to, let's see. Hey, there we are. I'm on Board Game Geek as Funk Donut. On Twitter at Mercury with 7 M's. And then also my website, KathleenMercury.com, is where I put all of my game design teaching resources, which are for free. And I mean, I just pay to have the website host. I make no money from it. They're used all over. So if you know people who want to do game design, teach game design, direct them to it. It's there. I'm happy to share. This has been a ton of fun. Thank you for having me. And if any of you want to, ever want to reach out, please do so. I love collaborating and talking about game design so much. You're so welcome. You're so welcome, everybody. This has been a ton of fun.
Yes,
Yay.
thank you. Thank you so much, Kathleen, for doing this. This is absolutely incredible. And thank you everyone for joining and participating. Your games sound awesome. If you keep working on them, put them in the Discord, please. Definitely throw that in there. Maybe we'll make a channel for it or something. But I know I'm going to keep working on the first one I did, so I'm excited about that.
If you just want to share the photos of what you worked on today, throw them in the Discord, and we can all get excited about what everybody made up.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. No, seriously, you never know where the great idea is going to come from. My sister, there was a Girl Scout song. Oh, I wish I was a little dirty birdie, dirty birdie. Oh, I wish I was a little dirty birdie, dirty birdie. I go up on the steeple and poop on the people. Oh, I wish I was a little dirty birdie. That's what inspired Dirty Birdie, which turned into Dragnarok, which then was just how I made my first prototype. And then it actually went. And then I started kicking around other ideas. You don't know. Just go on the journey. You know what I mean? Just make toys. Life's hard right now. Have fun with it. Make some fun stuff. So proud of all of you guys for doing this. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so